Hello, beautiful sacred souls. Today we are going to explore why just be present misses the full human experience. Today I want to explore the common spiritual teaching, just be present or focus on present moment. And this is the goal of the human experience. And so I want to acknowledge that. But I think sometimes the teaching can miss the richness of the full human experience. I'm Allison Batty-Capps of Blossoming Heart Wellness, and I want to dive into a perspective that bridges trauma, neuroscience, and spirituality. Let's explore the nuance of present moment awareness. You've probably heard phrases like, be present and unhappiness will disappear. Or live in the now and life will flow with joy. And while these are accurate and presence is incredibly powerful, it isn't meant to erase difficult emotions. Human beings are designed to experience the full spectrum of feelings, including sadness, fear, frustration, anger, and yes, excitement, love, and joy. And here's an important clarification. Some people interpret being present or living in the present moment as simply focusing on a task or coming back to the moment while ignoring what's happening on the inside, treating thoughts and emotions like they are clouds to be pushed aside or ignored. And I want to name something that can happen for many individuals when we do this. It leads us to bypass essential signals from our body and our nervous system and our parts from a psychological perspective. Emotions and thoughts are actually sacred messengers. They are guides showing us or pointing us towards what our needs are, what our boundaries are, and what our inner state is. And simply ignoring them can limit our ability to respond to life with clarity and authenticity. And it can lead us to stay in harmful situations. So, from my perspective, presence and present moment awareness isn't about bypassing emotions. It's being able to actually sit with what's happening in your inner experience while bringing that wisdom to present moment awareness, with the recognition that sometimes what is happening internally is seeing things through the lens of past trauma. And that is where self-awareness and healing and presence is not just about being present in the moment externally, but deeply understanding what is present inside yourself and being able to be present with it. For example, anger may indicate a boundary has been crossed. So if you just come back to the task, say for example, you receive a message from a coworker and they violate a boundary in the message, and you come back to just being in the present moment and you decide that you're going to ignore the email and just go back to working on what you're working on, without noticing your anger, you might miss a signal that something important needs attention within that relationship. And although it is valid to choose not to engage in conflict, you might be teaching that individual that your boundaries don't matter and that they can continue to push them or ignore them. Sadness might signal a need for rest or reflection or connection. And simply pushing aside the sadness, like noticing it and saying, well, the sadness is there, but I'm not going to respond to it because that's not important or that's taking me away from this moment. It's actually bypassing an opportunity for self-care and deeper intimacy, because sadness is usually an indication that there's some sort of disconnection, either from the body, which is needing you to slow down and be with it, or the relationship, which is somehow signaling that there's a lack of connection there, or a lack of connection between your parts and your inner compass. And so sadness is a key for connection, either connecting to the body and resting or doing self-care, or connecting to your inner parts that are feeling triggered by the past and they're needing you to reparent them and care for them, or connection in the relationship. Fear can point to areas where courage or preparation or discernment might be needed. So ignoring the emotion of fear actually prevents you from showing up fully and intentionally in whatever's happening in the moment. So it is true that sometimes there might be no actual threat or danger to life in the present moment, and the fear might be seeing the person through, or the experience of the present moment through the lens of something difficult that happened in the past. However, from a neuroscience perspective, something in the present moment is reminding your system of something difficult that you've experienced in the past. So just ignoring the fear completely actually prevents you from keeping yourself safe in an integrated way. So present moment awareness isn't just about being focused on your task or focused on being present but ignoring what's happening internally. It's actually about noticing and witnessing and embodying your emotions, not pretending they don't exist. From my perspective, we have an inner compass, and that is the ability of our system and our consciousness to be present and observe something. And that aspect of ourselves is healed. It is complete. It holds deep wisdom. And the aspects of ourselves that are showing up as disharmony or not joy, not love, not peace, those are parts of ourselves that need our help. And so from my perspective, presence is the ability to be with those parts of ourselves and feel what they're feeling without being overrun by it, but using that as information of how we can care for ourselves and show up in relationship more authentically. So presence as the full human experience. I think of presence as a river, and it's like floating in the river, that sometimes the water is calm, sometimes it is deep, sometimes it is shallow, sometimes it is turbulent. And it isn't sitting in the river and ignoring what's happening in the river. It's not about stopping the rapids or pretending the river is always smooth either. It's presence about witnessing what is happening. So witnessing your inner state with curiosity and compassion, embracing both the joy and the discomfort simultaneously, because those states actually exist simultaneously. We are never one thing. Responding to life with clarity, care, and authenticity, with self-awareness, understanding what is being triggered inside us versus just ignoring it. When we acknowledge our emotions and our thoughts as messengers rather than as problems, we can show up more fully in life. We develop resilience, self-knowledge, self-awareness, the ability to make choices based on our needs and boundaries rather than reacting. And this is something that some teachings on presence miss, is it is really difficult to be in the present moment without being hijacked by the past if you haven't done your inner work, if you haven't learned how to be with the difficult emotions. Because as human beings, we will always experience situations in the external world that trigger inner experience. It's just a part of life. If you look at what's happening in the world today, there are many opportunities to be witnessing suffering, and that creates disharmony inside us. And it is natural biological perspective to be triggered and for those triggers to take over. So I believe presence is actually about being able to witness what's happening internally and slow the process down so that you can understand what's happening. And that helps you be in the present moment. So what are some practical ways to practice presence the way I'm describing it? Well, you can notice and witness your emotions with the understanding that they are parts of you that need your help. So rather than saying, I feel frustrated, you might say, a part of me is feeling frustrated. Rather than saying, I feel excited, you might say, part of me is feeling excited. Rather than saying, I feel sad, you might say, a part of me is feeling sad. This creates the ability to be present with what's happening without judgment as it's good or bad. It's just there, and it's a part that needs attention. And then you might ask yourself, well, what does that part of me need? What does that emotion need? What is anger, sadness, or joy trying to tell me? What is the underlying need? What is the underlying boundary? And then breathe and embody your feelings. Feel them in your body without suppressing or bypassing them. This allows the nervous system to discharge, which sometimes means it shakes or it cries or it needs to scream. And this is how we release the emotions rather than them getting stuck, because we know from a biological perspective based on neuroscience that when we don't process our emotions and allow them to flow through our system, they actually get stuck in our nervous system, in our fascia, in our cells. And that is what leads to inflammation, and that is what leads to long-term illness. And then we can practice self-compassion. We can remind ourselves, it is okay to feel this way. And then we can say to that part, I'm here with you. I want to help you. I want to help you stay safe. And we are allowed to feel the whole human experience. And this is a skill that we develop over time, especially for those of us who were taught some emotions are unacceptable. So it is important to have patience and self-compassion with yourself. That is the key. Why does this matter, this approach? Well, by embracing the full human experience, present moment awareness becomes practical and sustainable. It becomes grounded in your body and your emotions. It becomes a pathway to authentic joy, clarity, and connection, not the final destination. It recognizes that the human experience is fluid, that there are multiple states that we move through at any given time. And that takes off some of the pressure that I have to always be happy, or I have to always be at peace, or I have to always be experiencing love. That can be a lot of pressure when the reality is we come across things that trigger us. You are not doing anything wrong by experiencing the full range of emotions. Every feeling is a teacher. Every moment is an opportunity to grow, connect, and live more fully. I don't believe that presence is a final destination. It is an ongoing practice. It is an evolving thing that happens. And when we forget, it is okay to say, I am in the forgetting. Now, if this resonates with you, I invite you to sign up for my newsletter at blossomingheartwellness.com for trauma-informed, human-centered spiritual guidance, tools, and teachings, and find out about online courses. Or you might explore my book, The Divine Within, Healing Ourselves to Heal the World, which goes deeper into these practices and provides practical exercises to develop present moment awareness. Remember, presence isn't about perfection. It is about being with yourself fully in all your colors and emotions. Thank you for being here. If you found this video insightful or it resonated, I hope you'll consider liking, commenting, following, subscribing, sharing with others who might find it helpful. I'm sending you deep love.